เสตุธัมมังอนุกัมปิมังปัชชัง
นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะบุญทางธัมมังสังฆังนะมัสสามิ So, just a few more weeks, and then the rains is over. And so, I think it's a good time to, maybe it's too late to talk about one of the way to cultivate wholesome states. And the Buddha says, what is right effort? How do we put in effort the right way? One of the famous story is that Vimosona, who was a lute player, and he obviously had a lot of faith in the Buddha and ordained, but because he grew up in a very refined family, very wealthy, that I think he never walked anywhere. He was so delicate that he had hair on the bottom of his feet, they say, because he gets carried around everywhere. But then he had a lot of faith in the Buddha, so he wanted to put a lot of effort into practicing. So we do a lot of walking meditation, sitting, walking, but mostly walking. And he was walking so much that his feet was bleeding. And the Buddha saw that, and he said, you used to be a musician. What did you play? He said, I played the lute. And he said, well, for the sound of the lute to be good, to be, what's the word? Sounds nice. The string can be too tight or too loose. Yeah. So same with the practice. If you're putting too much, effort into it, doing too much, it was bleeding. So just do it just right. Don't overdo it. Don't be too slack, but don't be too hard, too gung ho. The effort has to be just the right amount of effort. Yeah. And also where to put the effort. So he gave this teaching on right effort is also part of the Eightfold Path. And right effort is, to summarize it, other than the instead of doing the Pali translation, which would be a bit clumsy, is the effort to put it into. The first one is to make sure that unwholesome states doesn't arise, and that if that's the first effort. Second one is, if there is already unwholesome efforts already there, you make sure they decrease, find way to counteract them. And the third right effort is to cultivate wholesome states. Make sure the wholesome state arise in the mind. And if you find that you already have wholesome states, make sure they continue and to develop them to full fruition. So those are the four right efforts. And basically it's just, this awareness, mindfulness, to know what the mind is doing. And then just steer it in a way that's more wholesome, really. So it's not we don't have to be, it's always have to be superhuman effort where you have to sit and walk, 18 hours a day or 24 hours a day. But it's just, what my mind is doing. It's the effort into to knowing, the effort into surrendering. It's not an effort to doing more things. It's an effort to be present, like to people. And the effort to really to continue with the practice day in, day out, to consistency, the effort into acceptance, to forgiveness, effort into understanding. Sometimes, people are saying this, so it's overused, but I'll use effort into letting go, but try to use other words, that way people can connect. Effort into surrendering to the monastery, surrendering to the situation, surrendering, that's why as monks we have many, many rules to live by. In the Thai forest tradition, everywhere you move, there's a rule that you have to be doing. You have to sit in a certain way, you have to wear your robe a certain way, eat in a certain way, certain time. Food has to be offered in a precise way. There's a lot of different things that people can say, are we just attached to rites and ritual? But a lot of it is just these things are meant to rub away a sense of self. I always ask people to come into a monastery, try to settle in, try to change yourself into the system of the monastery. See how it works. You're not here to change the monastery to suit your way of doing things. And yes, we're less than perfect. There's always things happening wrong. But, before you try to change the system, change Theravada Buddhism, change the monastery, just try to fit in first. Because, and that's understanding of conditionality. Things are the way they are, there's a reason. So find out the reason first before we try to change everything. But it's normal. I mean, I had the same thing. When I was in Nigeria, I knew exactly how to run a monastery, I'm sure. I could do that blindfold. I said, these guys are just fumbling around. And how difficult can it be run a monastery? There's no goals. You just have to get up, eat. People feed you, and that's it. You don't have to manage anything. How difficult can that be? And then you start to get responsibility, and you realize, okay, it's a bit more tricky than it looks. And but what I found was that we can get really caught up sometimes in the practice and in the judging, how is my practice is going? Is you're proceeding in the right direction? Am I putting in enough effort? And it can be very, very simple. Like I said, just this present moment awareness. Where's my mind? And is it wholesome, unwholesome? And how do I steer it away? And it's also more of, like I said, it's a practice of more of a feeling and a gentle nudge towards the right direction, not to squash it. Sometimes that's kind of a Mars trap. You get a craving for a piece of cake or something, and then the craving arises and you take 2 pieces. And then you beat yourself for the rest of the day for being so greedy, and you're such a terrible person that you had 2 pieces of cakes, and that you might as well give up, and you're going to fall into hell for all this, and you can't practice or whatever. And I would tell people, it's not the greed that's a problem, it's how we relate to it. So just in terms of the practice, looking at your mind in the situation from a perspective of just gentleness, of acceptance, of understanding. How do I cultivate that? Because they are, I keep using this simile over and over again, but they're muscles of the mind. And the more you exercise the wholesome muscles, they grow over time, but it takes time. It doesn't happen right away. Just like going to the gym, you gotta start with 5 kilos first. And you do it for a while, and then you go to 10 kilos. You can't go up and start bench pressing 100 kilos. You'll break your arm. The same with the mind. You can't expect to sit here for 2 hours, 4 hours, and get complete samadhi all the time. That's not how it works. It just takes, maybe it's just your first few minutes. Then it builds up slowly. But I was talking the other day. It's not whether you get a couple minutes, a couple seconds, but it's what you focus on. You're sitting here for an hour, the mind's all over the place, and it's just the last few seconds, the mind just slows down for a little bit. And then you focus on that, it's like, wow, that's amazing. Finally shut up for a few seconds. Oh, now I know what samadhi feels like. That was amazing. I had a wonderful sit. so happy. Finally taste what peace feels like. And you walk the rest of the day really happy because you finally taste peace. Or it can be the other person who focuses, I'm sitting here at Ajahn and it's just like excruciating. I'm sitting here for 59 minutes and nothing happened. The mind is just all over the place. I'm thinking and my body is in pain and I'm wondering backwards and forwards, thinking about the past, the future. Mind is just so unsettled. I'll never be able to meditate. I can't meditate. I have to do something else. I'll never become enlightened. And then you focus on all the distraction thing, you get more, anxious and depressed and sad. That how difficult meditation is. But it isn't, really. Meditation is not really, we meditate not to become peaceful. We meditate to understand the mind. Know when it's peaceful, feels like that. When it's not peaceful, distracted, feels like that. And once understanding happens, the mind will settle down on its own rhythm. As long as we get out of the way, as long as we don't have ideas, expectations, goals, as long as I'm not wanting something. I'm sure you probably heard it already. There's the walls of wanting. Whatever you want, you start to reach for it. This wall starts to come up. And the more you want it, the thicker the walls get and the higher it gets. And the more barbed wire comes out, the more you want it. So the idea is just to sit. And I say over and over again, you don't have to know much. Happy to be here. Just happy to be sitting. This beautiful sala that someone built for us. Amazing forest that we have. Beautiful birds to sing for us all day long. Beautiful sunshine weather. Just happy to be sitting here. And then the mind will settle down. Samadhi comes from happiness, from contentment. It doesn't come from wanting. It doesn't come from expectation, from goal setting. Sometimes we're just happy. The mind will settle down. Bodies will become calm. And then samadhi happens. So sometimes, you hear discussions. What kind of meditation do you do here in the monastery, Ajahn? You do samatha or vipassana. And I have to get this on tape. Vipassana is clear seeing. You don't do vipassana. That's not how it works. Vipassana happens when the mind is peaceful. Okay? So the idea that we do vipassana is a total misnomer. Samatha and vipassana goes together. When the mind is calm, things become more clear. You see things clearly. Wisdom happens. It's not you driving the process. The only thing that an ego or you can do is usually get in the way and make suffering for yourself and others. It's when we get out of the way, we accept, we embrace, we surrender to the present moment, things happen because the conditions are there. So the more we move out of the way, the more samadhi happens naturally. It is the self, the ideas we have, the expectations, the wanting, the craving, the managing. That is the thing that disturbs the mind, the comparison, the judging. Where am I? What am I doing? Am I really progressing? Is this really good technique for me or is it not? Why is that person so peaceful? It's so unfair. I've been there 8 weeks. And he just showed up and he's just sitting there with a smile on his face. I want my refund. I want my money back. No, it's just happy to be here. Nothing to do, nowhere to go. Nothing to be. Not here to be anybody, be anything. Here just to be with this body and mind of ours. Understand why we do the way we do, how things turn out. And the more we're present, the more the mind will settle down naturally. The more we're content, the more we're happy, the more we're grateful, then the mind will settle down. It comes from wholesome states. Samadhi arises from wholesome states. But we're encouraged to, start with harmlessness, start out with, gratitude and contentment, metta, well-wishing, forgiveness, acceptance, giving people, situation, benefit of the doubt. Those are all wholesome states, and they will settle the mind out naturally. You just have to wait. Really. It's really easy to do. Just wait in the moment. Just to be here. And then the mind will open up naturally on its own. And you'll see the beauty of samadhi, the beauty of insight. You see, where is that we're making a self? Where is it that we're making suffering for ourselves and others? Where is it that we're attaching? Because, we'll hear it over and over again, yeah. So much of our suffering, 99.9%, is optional, it's self-imposed. Yeah, there's a bit of body with, dukkha with the body, dukkha having a mind, dukkha with living, sure. But the clinging, the attachment, the judging, the reaction to the stuff, so much more that we add on to the experience. That we don't have to. We can react to the present moment. We can react to the situation with clarity, with acceptance, with love and compassion, with appreciative joy, with mudita, or with equanimity. So those are the kind of the 4 ways of also relating to the world, the 4 ways of relating to ourselves. Also fits into, the right efforts. Effort to cultivate wholesome states, really. So we don't have to, we don't have to read all the 4 volumes of the Tipitaka, Majjhima Nikaya, the Samyutta, although they're pretty good, but it's not necessary, completely optional. We just have to cultivate wholesome states, whatever that means to you, however you relate to. Could be forgiveness, could be, mudita, appreciative joy, could be compassion, could be acceptance, or surrendering to the situation, surrendering to the present moment. It's a path of increasing happiness, a path of increasing sense of well-being. And that's how we know that we're going in the right direction. So those are the 4 right efforts to, I'll put it the other way, to increase wholesome states, develop them. If they're not there, to cultivate wholesome states. If they're not arising in the mind yet, to cultivate wholesome states. If you notice there are unwholesome states, to make sure they diminish, or to practice in a way that those unwholesome states doesn't arise. 4 right efforts. Or the effort to embrace, effort towards to care, effort towards forgiveness, acceptance, effort just to maintain, continue with the training, continue always inclining towards wholesome states, moving away from unwholesome states, and just that much. So I offer that for your reflection today. Samadhi